I feel a little spoiled as we get into episode 9 of ReZero second season part 2, or episode 47 if you're watching on Crunchyroll. I'm feeling a little spoiled in the idea that I have a good episode, but I feel like I haven't gotten anything from this episode. Like it's a lackluster episode because it's not a insane episode with great reveals. Like I said, a little bit spoiled in that regard. But yeah, it pretty much opened up with the fight between Garf and Elsa. I have no sympathy for Elsa at this point, so seeing Garf chuck her by her hair into the wall and then grind her up against the wall was perfectly welcome at this point. We also had Subaru fail miserably getting Beatrice out of the library. And it's funny because this is where I have my disappointments in the series right now. Well, just this episode in general is this episode kind of is an episode where we feel like we're treading the same ground again and again. And granted, that's kind of the concept of ReZero, is kind of repeating things. So having Subaru go in there and have to lure Beatrice out again after a reset makes perfect sense. And granted, the writer could have Subaru go in there and say the same exact things that he'd said to get her out of there last time, but the writer always kind of tends to try to kind of get a conversation going in a different direction, just to kind of give some fresh new look at each angle. And that's the concept of ReZero that's always been great, is being able to see things from multiple angles. Even though it's the same story, things are being revealed by going through these processes over and over again and sussing out every single corner of a conversation. And that's technically what happened here is the conversation went more for the idea of Beatrice choosing her own destiny, choosing her own future, rather than waiting for the book to tell her something. It was a little sad having her kind of point out that she's happy that them being there to kill her obviously means that she's in Rosewall's book, even if it is for her death. At least Mom still kind of acknowledged her even after 400 years, which that was kind of depressing. But yeah, he fails. She asks the usual question of, "Are you that somebody?" He says no and gets kicked out. So I guess we're putting that to the side for right now. I guess having her come out of there is a little bit too easy at this point, but we'll see. I mean, I guess it's technically not too easy because Beatrice did fail to, or got killed by Elsa, so it's not like she's indestructible. But yeah. On Amelia's side, we had her do her second trial, which was to experience a possible present, or a fake present, basically, an unthinkable present, which is essentially that she's able to be with Fortuna and Goose, and they're all a big happy family. Literally, it seems like they're all a happy family because they at some point have Fortuna mention the idea of her eyes being from her brother, which I believe before she said it was her hair. So they're kind of implying that there's like a difference here and that they're actual family at this point. And it was kind of sweet that Amelia kind of, in this portrayal of something that she should want to stay with and should be something that she desires, it seems like during the conversation she's always thinking about their happiness, which was kind of sweet if you think about it. After she kind of leaves them, she goes into, she has a conversation with, I don't really necessarily think it's him. I think it was more of a conversation with Ekidona, if anything. But after she kind of thanks Ekidona for letting her see this, Ekidona looks, very apparently emotional. She doesn't look angry. She looks sorrowful and emotional. And it's funny because you can actually drive two different ideas from this one split-second shot of her in tears. She says, of course, you make me sick, which is typical what Ekidona would see in Amelia. But there's two sides of this coin. One is the obvious. She's super jealous of Amelia to the point now where she is emotionally upset. Is it because Amelia is so easily able to give up her past, and Ekidona doesn't understand it and can't give up her past? Which I don't really necessarily believe, just because Ekidona has never really... She's never really sat there and dwelled on the past. Whenever she's talking with Subaru or talking with Amelia, unless it's part of the trial, she's not really dwelling on the past. She's always... Her standpoint always seems like she's shooting for the future. but I guess you can technically say that because she has devised a plan for the future, she technically is dwelling in the past because those are mechanics that are providing for her future. But I'm getting way too deep here and probably incoherent. But the other theory, I mean, again, this is kind of in lieu of all the things played out so far, is we never really, for one, a lot of the history that we've seen in a lot of scenes for the last few episodes, we have not been seeing Ekidona's eyes, especially the history parts, which would, I guess, you could imply it means that there's something about her eyes in the past, maybe that she's changed. But with the fact that they keep bringing up and not revealing who Amelia's parents are, which we're all kind of, for up to this point, have been assuming it's going to be Satala. But there's a possibility that since they've, and again, this is kind of implying just because of how it's playing out and how they're bringing up things sort of randomly, then having Ekidona emotional is a possibility that Ekidona could be Amelia's mother? Question mark? I don't know. That it is, honestly, Ekidona does have a lot of similarities to Amelia. So I'm not going to rule it out. There's no reason to rule it out. I don't really understand why a lot of it hasn't been, I guess, shown too much of. It would explain why Ekidona was perfectly fine with watching a lot of what happened with Amelia's past. It doesn't answer why Ekidona is so mean to Amelia, but that could just be her nature. She is still greed. Even if she is her mother, she's still greed. She could be a very jealous mother. She should be a mother that wants what her daughter has, which is perfectly viable thing. But it is a theory. I'm not 100% buying on it yet, but it is a very specific looking face, and it's a very emotional face. But like I said, it very well could also be the idea that she is jealous of Amelia's ability to give up the past. She's jealous of what Amelia has. Obviously, we've gotten at this point, it seems to be driven home that she is extremely jealous of Amelia. But to the point of having almost a sadness, not an anger, is what is weird about the whole situation. So we'll see. It is a cool idea. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with having more Ekidona in the future. Hopefully she can get over her things and not be a bad person. She is a bad person, so we got to keep remembering that. Once Amelia came out, she was greeted by all the villagers, and not just the villagers from the other town, but the villagers of the sanctuary. A lot of the beast people, Ryuzu. And this is kind of an interesting scene because it feels a little bit forced, even though I technically believe that establishing that she's supported by everybody is a good thing. It feels forced in the idea that shortly after she leaves them, she's going off to the last trial, which is a disaster yet to come future. And I almost feel like they almost brought them in there just to have them be in that future, which I guess gets into my theories of what those futures could be. My first and foremost, and I think this is going to be what happens, we won't get to see it. I believe they're going to skip past it. We're going to move on, and the sanctuary is going to open, and she's going to look distraught, but we won't know exactly what it was until that future happens. Then Amelia is going to say, "This is what I've seen. It's happening now." I'm like 99.9% sure that's what's going to happen. We're not going to see that future. Now, if the writer wants to be nice to us and perfectly okay with the difficulty that comes with showing future, because when you show future, you have to either have it happen or it's not technically a future, and then people get really angry. Dealing with future stuff is really difficult. But having that be the case, I think is my surefire. The second I believe is, like I said, kind of in play with them bringing the villagers to the temple, is I believe that her future she should possibly see is going to be a future of all of them frozen. And obviously Roswald was able to cast his spell. Everybody's frozen. And this is probably going to be a difficult thing for her because she's going to remember the villagers that were frozen at her hometown. And now these people are frozen. Everybody around her is getting frozen. That's kind of my lesser theory, because I think that's a little bit too not as traumatic. I don't think that they're as close to her as a lot of other characters that could be in that disastrous future. My third theory, and this is one I think is more of a broader look of everything, which I also don't think is going to happen either, because I think it reveals too many of the cards, and that's having her awaken in a throne room. She has been selected, and there's genocide happening in the village or the kingdom, and possibly Rosewald involved. It's going to be just like a bloodbath at the throne, like just a bloody throne scene. And then my last one's going to be just the easy stuff, like, Subaru dead, Puck dead, Ram dead. These characters that are technically close to her finding a demise, which I think is a little bit too easy. I think if it's the last one, I'm going to be pretty disappointed. Like, it's like, yeah, that's an easy one. Oh, look at your future. Your friends are dead. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I honestly don't. But yeah. Those are my theories on what ends up going to be in that future. Like I said, I'm almost 100% sure we're not going to see it. And if we do see it, it might be something. I hope it's something interesting. No, don't just be, oh well, now you're Satala. That's your disastrous future. Look at you're killing everybody or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it's not predictable. So that's my thoughts on episode 9 of ReZero second season part 2, or episode 47 if you're watching on Crunchyroll where they add everything up, or episode 22 if you're just going by second season's layout. There's so many different ways you can go by it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, if you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and you all take care.